Welcome everybody to our holiday show, Holiday Stories. And I'm Dumont, and I'm with the Brewster Theater Company. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. We have a great show in store. It's 7 holiday stories tonight. One person could not make it, but that's okay. The 7 are outstanding. And before we start, I just really have to thank a few people. First of all, I have to thank you all for coming out on a Tuesday night to play with us. So thank you very much. I have to thank everybody out there, and hopefully there's a few people watching. And I have to thank sponsors. So Hudson Valley Credit Union, Robert Maylove Law, you helped make this season possible. Putnam Arts Council with a generous grant. We couldn't do it without all of you. And of course, everybody who participated this year during COVID. It was really just such a, when I think back to last year, we did something not live, we recorded videos right about the same time in a very controlled environment, one person in, one person out. There were curtains, there was so much security just to say it, and now here we are a year later, just in a crowd, so it's really great to be back. We had some great shows this year. We definitely want to celebrate the year. We did this in the spring, loving the time of COVID. We had a Lola cabaret. We had Working, directed by Judy Brewster. We had a fantastic Playwrights Festival, and I hope everybody here was at our holiday show. So it's really, it was a great season and a lot to celebrate. And we also have a great 2022 season in store. So first up, I will be directing Prescription Murder. Ooh. Nice, very good, very cute. It is a murder mystery, so if you're a Columbo fan, we are looking for people to audition, so brush up. We're always welcoming new people to the theater. My good friend behind the camera is directing Room Service. My good friend Judy Brewster over there, and Nate Brewster is musical directing, so Judy's directing, and the musical director is Barnum. So get your circus hats on. And our good friend Christopher Gladys is directing La Cage aux Folles. And the Playwright Festival will be back, and I'm sure we'll have something in store for the holidays. So we really have a great season ahead of us. So just some particulars before we start. This is the Do Not Enter Zone. So don't cross it. Otherwise, you're going to be on camera and interrupting the person here. Bathrooms are in the back. Just go around the side or go around the side. Pretty simple. Other than that, the fantastic people, and I did forget to thank them, the people here at Iron and Wine, thank you so much. Tommy, Marianne, Iron and Wine has supported us. We had a film festival in their parking lot. We're here tonight, so they have been a great supporter of ours, so we can't thank them enough. So, without any further ado, they'll come around, eat, drink, have fun, do what you can. First one up, Kate Rado. Thanksgiving's the best.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out. I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday. It's perfect because it's not Christmas. Instead, it's a giant delicious meal and no presents. It's complete self-indulgence and no someone else's indulgence. It's devouring a dozen of those tiny little baby onions, and no worrying if the sweater I picked for my brother's new girlfriend is the correct size or a cashmere insult. Thanksgiving is the best. Of course, there will be the tiptoeing in the morning. I'll have to keep my voice down while chopping onions because all 3 of my older brothers decided to stay up late playing poker. Not that they bothered to invite me to play. I mean, they would have said, "It's just guys, Katie." But we all know what they meant was, "We don't want to lose our money to a girl, Katie." The tiptoeing will continue when my dad falls asleep in front of the TV watching the parade. The New York Times softly floating up and down with each thunderous inhale and exhale. I point out to my mom that I should be able to talk at a volume on par with his snoring, but she just brushes me off. Keep chopping, then get to the potatoes. Yay, Thanksgiving's the best. John will shuffle in eventually and make himself a bowl of cereal. I offer up a board game because he's my most worthy opponent. Quirkle? Blockus? He negotiates. Scrabble. Dang it, I shouldn't have opened with 2 board games in my opening offer. That's such a rookie mistake. I counter. Bananagrams? But we both know that he has me cornered. He won't even look up from his computer as he lays the final blow. Risk. Oh! Over the course of what feels like 7.5 hours, but is actually only about 1, he'll carefully dance me backwards into Australia. Woohoo, Thanksgiving. Well, Andrew will bounce in next like a puppy looking for someone to throw him a ball. He'll change the channel to whatever football game is on, or not actually on yet, but is in the stage of men in suits talking about how the game will eventually be on, and boy, what a game it'll be! He'll ask each of us to go outside and throw the football with him, and we will each groan our separate excuses. You know, you should be more athletic, Katie. Guys don't care if you can do the crossword. It's the Thursday, Andrew. Don't you know how hard the Thursday is? I don't even know what you're talking about. He'll go wake up Robert, who will quickly down a full glass of water mixed with some green powder that comes in what looks like a tea package. Watching him drink this sludgy concoction is exactly like watching someone down a pint of raw eggs. The ensuing sensation will make me set down the spoon of peanut butter I was about to eat. And as Robert backs out of the room, he'll snatch it up. Hey, thanks. Hey, that was mine. Woohoo, Thanksgiving. Eventually, we'll rush to get all the many side dishes to the fancy serving buffet in the fancy dining room, right there next to the fancy silverware. Each fancy thing fulfilling its once-a-year role. It's your time to shine, gravy boat. Don't forget your lines, Grandma Irene's platter. You're on, giant fork and knife thingy. Don't forget your lines. Eventually, they will forget their lines, and the plug-in knife thingy will have to be called in, rolling up like the tow truck savior that it is. I'll be second in line to fill my plate, behind my mom, who gets the honor of first in line because she did most of the cooking. I'll take 1 scoop of each thing, arranging it all like paints on a palette. The burnt sienna yams, the crimson cranberry sauce, the golden mashed potato volcano with butter lava, the Kelly green beans, and of course the violet baby onions. I'll carefully take my plate out of the dining room and sneak into the kitchen, where I will cover it with plastic wrap and stash it in the fridge behind 2 dozen eggs. Then I'll secretly grab the second plate I had previously hidden and go get back at the end of the line and fill my plate again. I'll find a seat at the table, take a bite, and become enraptured with the flavors swirling. Salty, sweet, fatty, tangy. Over the course of the next 2 hours, I will be asked a question or 2. And when it's time for me to answer, the spotlight finally on me, I will be interrupted. Only time will tell if it's by Mom giving me a command, John correcting my accuracy, Andrew telling me how I differ from normal girls, or Robert stealing food from my plate with an extending trick fork. After the meal is finally over, and we've done multiple loads of dishes and put them all away, the boys will go out to a bar, Mom will head off to bed, and Daddy and I will find ourselves in front of the TV, watching my favorite movie. Me with my hidden extra plate, and he with his hidden extra pie. Thanksgiving's the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. This is our Giving Tuesday event. And so what Giving Tuesday is about, if for those of you not familiar, is nonprofits, charities. We are all begging for money all year long, and Brewster Theater Company is no different. If you can, donate. The productions that we put on every year are elaborate. They cost money, costumes, rights, things like that. Every dollar that comes in helps us. We are a 501c3, volunteer board. Nobody makes a dime on the board. We are really here to serve the community. So if you're out there, if you've enjoyed a Brewster Theater show, click on the donate button on our website, brewstertheater.org. And if you're here, you can do that also. But I really do encourage you to come out, see our shows, support us any way you can. Every $5, $10 donation makes a difference. We're hoping to make about $2,000 from this event. And before we started, we were at a little over 1,000. So hopefully by the end of the night, we make our goals. So please encourage friends. You can always go on after the show. It will be available to make donations. So, having said that, our second performer with the origination of Johnnie is Chris Gillespie.
Good evening. Okay. The holiday season is upon us again. Now, your holiday season and my holiday season might be two different things, but that's okay. My holiday season is Thanksgiving, then Christmas, and then New Year's Eve, New Year's, which I gave up on many years ago, only because it's basically amateur night, okay? So if you wanna bring in the new year, start drinking at maybe Halloween or Thanksgiving and go straight through to St. Patrick's Day. That would be impressive. However, New Year's Eve is not the ticket. Now, Christmas is, did I get the right thing? Is it the right color? I don't think it's the right color. They wanted something else, but I've been to 5 stores, and this is the only place I saw it. So I might as well get it here. Where do all these people come from? And the traffic. Okay. Christmas is very stressful. However, brings us back to Thanksgiving, which may be the perfect holiday because you get together with family and friends, you sit down, you have a nice meal, you get up to go sit down someplace else to have a nap, after which you get up to go back to where you were originally sitting, and you have a little dessert, maybe some coffee, a chat, then you get up and you go home. Perfect holiday. The only problem is that each year looks the same as another year. All those rituals being the same, you forget where you are. Somebody might say to you, wasn't that the year that this happened? And no, that was 2 years before that. And you turn around and say, oh, I don't know about that. Well, it's definitely not the year you thought it was. So we'll avoid an argument. But I remember one Thanksgiving, 49 years ago in 1972. I have a buddy, John Papacosta, who nobody ever called John or Papacosta. He is known as Peppa. Even his mother called him Peppa, which I thought was odd, only because if you were going to call him Peppa, why didn't you just call him Peppa right from the beginning and put it on the birth certificate? It would have saved a lot of problems. But Pep, he was Peppa. Now, on Thanksgiving Eve, that Wednesday, he called me up and he said, you want to go to a parade tomorrow? I've got tickets. And I said, Pep, it's a parade. You don't need any tickets. And he said, no. My mother works for a company that's right on the parade route. And they give out tickets to the employees to let them into the building so that they can watch the parade from an elevation in the warmth of being indoors. And I'm like, I'm in. I've never heard of such a thing. Plus, I was thinking, being on eye level with Snoopy, very exciting. So, growing up in Astoria, underneath the elevated subway, I lived off of 36th Avenue. Peppo lived off of Broadway. in Astoria. And the idea always was when you meet up with a buddy and you're going to a Met game or a Jet game or into the movies in Manhattan, you always met on the last car of the double R train, okay? Which has since become the N train for reasons only known to the MTA. The rest of us are in the dark about that decision and have been for quite some time. But it was always last car of the double R at a specific time, which was 8:45 the next morning. And I was so excited, I got up there a little early. But the first train didn't come in until a little after 9 o'clock. And this is the procedure. You get to the spot where you think that last car is going to be. Okay? And as the train pulls in, you're standing in place, and the doors open, you put one foot in, the arms go out, and the head goes in. Okay? Because if the part of your meeting is not on that subway, and you got on, havoc, the start of the apocalypse, you would never see your family and friends ever again because you missed the meetup. God knows where you would wind up. So that was the procedure. But I put it in my head and there's no pepper. So, back everything out again, wait for the next train. The next train comes and it's the same thing. Foot in, arms out, head in. Still no pepper. Now I'm worried. So I go back down to where the token booth is and the turnstiles, and they have a bank of payphones, which this is being ancient times. This was how we communicated, was payphones. And you had to have a memory to remember people's phone numbers so that when you got to a payphone, it wasn't like, it's something like this number. Or you just pushed a button and automatically, you wound up with the party you wanted to. It wasn't like that. So I called this house, but the line was busy. So I waited a couple of minutes. And I called again. And the line is still busy. So now I'm between a rock and a hard place, okay? Do I stay here and try another phone call, or do I go upstairs to where the last car is going to come in and be where I'm supposed to be to make the meet? So I decide, let me go up to where the train is going to be. That's the place to be. So I go up for the last car, and on the way up, I'm thinking to myself, when somebody misses a meet, there's only two things that could have happened in your own mind. One, they were murdered. Because that's the way we always thought, was if somebody didn't make the meet, they were murdered. Because the murder rate in our minds was much higher in our imagination than it was in reality, but that's the way we were. Or they got arrested. Now, what they would have been arrested for was hijinks or shenanigans, because we were under the impression that the police department in the city of New York was constantly rounding up teenagers to throw them in jail just to see them cry. But those were the first two thoughts you had. So I get up there, and now the third train comes, and now it's after 10 o'clock. And that's when I realized it's a holiday. They're on a holiday schedule. That's why it isn't working out the way you want it to. And anyhow, the train comes in, the doors open, and it was the same thing. There's Pep. Get on the train. Pep, where have you been? Well, my mother sent me down to John and Angela's. I had to get the cold cuts and bring them back home. And I also had to go to Parisi's to get the bread, and I had to bring that back home. And before I turned around, I'm there running just to catch this train. And I go, well, at least you haven't been murdered. And he said, he completely understood what I was talking about. So we got on the train, and we got down to, the double R takes us to 49th Street and 7th Avenue. Off the train, up the stairs, 1 block to the west, there's the parade in all its glory. Now we gotta go 1 block to the north, and there's our destination, 1633 Broadway. But we can't just run across the parade route, because you can get arrested for that. That's a felony. So we had to ask the police officer on the corner, you do us a favor and get us across the street because we have to get over to 1633 Broadway. We have tickets. And the police officer says, okay, you guys hold it right there. I'll let you know. So he lets a marching band go by, and then he says, okay, come on, fellas, run. And we ran across the street, and he gave the high sign to the cop across the street, telling him, don't arrest these guys, they're not interfering with the parade. So we get across the street, we run into the building. We show the tickets at the desk. The guy says, go up to the 5th floor, and you can sit in any office on the Broadway side, and you can watch the parade. So we run up there, off the elevator, into the office. Off with the jackets, grab chairs, sit down, put our feet right up on the radiator cover. And there it is, the parade's right in front of us. What's the first thing we see? Santa Claus. The parade is over. We missed the whole parade. So I said, Pep, how did this happen to us? But 5 minutes, I was a little angry, but 5 minutes later, it was one of those stories that you're gonna have for the rest of your life. So, put on the jackets, put the chairs back, go back downstairs, and we're starting to walk out to the street. And as we're walking to the street, they're already taking down the police barricades. And the sanitation sweepers are going down the block. And behind them is the sanitation guys with the broom and the huge shovels. And they have these garbage cans with wheels on them. And every time I saw them, I said, if you had a horse, the chariot races you could have with one of those garbage cans with the wheels would be tremendous if you could put up with the stink of standing in a garbage can, of course. So, as they're going by, I get this idea, perhaps, just perhaps, Charlie Brown, or maybe Underdog, got caught on a lamppost on the way downtown, ripping its arm. They had to pull it onto a side street to assess the damage, but then they have to get him back onto the parade route just to bring him downtown, where they deflate these balloons and then send him off to some mob-run warehouse in New Jersey, I think. So I'm there, I step off the curb, and I start working my way out into the middle of the street. And as I'm working out, Broadway is curved at that. And I get out to the middle of the street, and the next thing I hear behind me is, I turn around, I jump, there's a police officer, and he has a nightstick. And he's banging it against the police barricade. And he says, okay, Johnnie, come on, get out of the street, the parade's over. So I jumped up in the air, and I was back on the curb in like seconds flat. And Peppo's there, doubled over in laughter. Hey, Johnnie, get out of the street. Parade's over. Well, that story has been told and retold amongst my circle of friends until now it's like folklore. Now what has happened is, since that day, there have been times when you're in a crowd of people and you have to get through. And if you turn around and just say, okay, Johnnie, the parade's over, people will move out of your way. For whatever reason, that's what they do. Or you're sitting at a bar and you've had too much to drink and you're sitting there like this and a friend taps you on the shoulder and says, okay, Johnnie, parade's over. You know that you have to get up and go home. And you kind of sobered up and went home. So now we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of this event. And each and every person here will have the opportunity over the next year to turn, hey, Johnnie, the parade is over. It's many uses you will find, whether you want to get through a crowd or some guy is at a bar and you want to get him out of there. Believe me, this is how a ritual starts. It's somebody telling the story and everybody else picking up on it. So if you would do me the favor and find the opportunity going forward to say to somebody over the next year, come on, Johnnie, the parade is over, you'll be doing us all a favor. Thank you very much.
Johnnie, I feel like that parade had at least 5 more minutes, so. First just in. We are almost at our goal, and I have to thank one of our sponsors, Robert Malov Law, just gave us $750. We are so close to making our goal. So, I always set a goal, never happens. So, anyway, and there are other people in the crowd who have donated. Some people donated with their tickets. I'll be happy to mention it to you, just whisper in my ear. The next performer is, we've gotten to know each other this year. And during COVID, we had a similar event, Story Hour. We called it Love in the Time of COVID. And she auditioned, and she was fantastic. And, you know, she was great. She's since joined us with reckless abandon and was involved in everything and in the holiday show. So when we had, by the way, this, I'm telling you this so you know how to audition for Brewster Theater Company. She comes into me and she says, "Hey Bob, I'm auditioning. I haven't anything for you, but don't worry, it'll be good." Now, having said all of that and knowing what she does, I have complete faith in her. However, I have no idea where she's about to take us. So here she is, Jean Mazzilli, Oh Onion, Onion Divine.
Hi everyone. Do you know what this is? It's an onion. And a few interesting things about the onion. The Egyptians worshipped this. They believed that it would help them in eternity. And if you cut an onion, it has circles, like life, and it connects us all. And stories connect us all, like memories, especially during the holidays. And I think it's so important to remember those things. So here's my story. Oh, Onion Divine. It's 2010, and I have to get to Copeg, Long Island. That's right, Copeg, Long Island, where I used to live, and I grew up. And if you blink, you might miss it. It's a little town between Amityville and Lindenhurst. And I'm heading on down to have Thanksgiving with my mother. But I'm constantly thinking about the stuffing. Yeah, the stuffing. It's not the turkey for Thanksgiving, it's the stuffing. But I gotta get to Long Island. That means I have to drive my car from here to Copeg. Now on an average day, getting to Long Island, what do you think? It's traffic. Now it's Thanksgiving Eve. And Jean needs to be zen in the car. Okay? Because the crazy people are outside the car. I need to be zen. I need to be focused. I need to be happy. You crazy people, stay away from my car. It's not happening tonight. I want to be happy when I get to my mother's. So, this is how it is in the car with Jean on Thanksgiving Eve. Hit it, Kate. I gotta keep myself occupied, so here we go. Take me home, take me home. Yes, that's right, we'll get there. Want a few girls to me. Take me home. With you is where I wanna be. They're already playing Christmas music. It's not even Thanksgiving yet. All right, let's get it. No matter how far away you roam, but I'm gonna get there. It's Barbara. I love Barbara. Hey, stay away from the car. Hey, stay away from the car. Oh, what fun it is to sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bell, jingle. Oh, buddy, stay over there. I'll just say, hey, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, I like this one. Look, Mom, no hands, because we're not moving. Everybody's reading that sign. Traffic, good ahead. I don't get it. It's not well ahead for me, but we're stuck here. Ooh, looking for a better day for me. I never understand what she's saying here. What's she saying? I gotta look this up on Google. Wait, it's gonna come. Wait. Here we go. Rapture. Woo! I got that one. right, I'm feeling it. Oh, yeah. Now I know I'm on Long Island. We do stop signs every couple of seconds here. And I'm pulling in. Yeah, I'm making it home. I'm getting into the driveway. Oh, I love it. Well, I get my stuff and I go inside to my mom's. You know, she says, how was the commute? And I'm like, and I said, you know, Mom, I'm really looking forward to your stuffing. She said, well, and I said, Mom, and leftovers too, right? And she said, well, there was a little bit of a problem. And I said, what's the problem? She says, well, there was not enough onions. I said, well, then what does that mean? Well, you're not gonna have any leftovers to bring back home. And now I'm thinking in my head, how am I gonna steal this? Do I stuff it in my cheek like a chipmunk? What do I do? I'll figure this out later. She says, look, do you want some stuffing? You gotta find some onions. I go, really, Mom? You know, it's Thanksgiving Eve. Well, if you want some stuffing, you gotta find some onions. Well, you know, Mom, it's Thanksgiving Eve and I like to go out. I like to go out dancing and I like to have a drink. Where are you going? Are you going out to see your rainbow people? I go, yeah, Mom, I'm going out to see my rainbow people. The gay bar, the closest gay bar, yes, Mom, I know. I like saying that, Jean, you know, rainbow people, it's just a nicer way to say it. I said, so now I gotta go to the supermarket before I go out to find onions. She says, yes. I said, okay. Well, if you know Jean, she's always on a mission. I'm gonna find some onions. I go to my first supermarket before I go out, and I go to the onion bin, and this is what I find. I don't think that's gonna work in the stuffing recipe, not at all. I go to my second supermarket. I don't even bother going to the onion bin. I just stop the nearest employee and they say, hey, got onions? He says, you know what? We're lucky we found milk. So, I now say this mission is over. I need to get out. I need to go see my peeps, my rainbow people. So, I go to the nearest gay bar. It happens to be more, you know, male-oriented. And, you know, I walk in, I just want to have a drink, just want to relax. So I get to the bar, order my drink, and guess what? The only straight guy that's in the gay bar wants to talk to me. And I'm thinking, oh no, please, please, no, no. Why? Then I'm thinking, why are you even here? Are you confused? Are you curious? Do you think you're gonna get lucky? Now look, if I wanted to get lucky, I would have went to a straight bar. You know? I'm just saying. So I couldn't understand. So as he's coming over to talk to me, and I have my drink now, and I'm looking, this is what I hear. What do I hear? Kate's getting it. Oh, that's all right, Kate. We'll hear it. You know Peanuts, the teacher? There is. That's what I hear when he's talking to me. Yeah, And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to talk to you. I gotta get away from you. So, now I have to solve this problem. How do you solve a problem like this? The answer is bathroom. Go to the bathroom. So, I say to him, look, I'm gonna take my drink and I'm gonna watch my own drink and I'm gonna take it to the bathroom. And I'll see you soon. So I go to the bathroom. And I'm Mr. Thinker now. What do? Let's just call it a night. You didn't find any onions. You didn't get to dance. Just finish your drink and Jean go home. It's okay, it's okay. I come out of the bathroom, come out to the bar, and I say, I'm gonna call it a night. He says, well, I'll walk you out. I go, oh, the dreaded I will walk you out. I don't need, okay. So, with my drink, I'm done. We go out to the parking lot. He's still Mr. Womp Womp talking. And all of a sudden I hear, can someone help me? I'm like, to Mr. Womp Womp, did you hear that? I didn't hear anything. Of course you don't hear anything. You just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. A few minutes go by. We hear it again, but I hear it. Can someone please help me? I said to him, did you hear it? He goes, yeah, I heard that. I heard that. I said, so we're looking between the cars. And you know, Long Island, everything is on top of each other, you know? And there's a convenience store. And there's this guy on the ground with a bike, with a basket, and he's just laying there. And he starts to tell us his life story and what things are happening, but he's really not telling us how he wants to be helped. And I'm thinking, how do I help this guy? What does he want from us? So, I don't know what to do. We wish him a happy Thanksgiving. We bless each other. But I'm so curious, so I walk back to the car. I say goodbye to Mr. Womp Womp. And I say, I'm gonna go back there. I wanna find out why this guy's there, you know? So, he's laying on the ground, he continues to start talking. And I'm thinking in my head, what can I do to help this guy? Doesn't seem hurt. I don't know what he wants. So of course, what do you think? You reach for money. Hand him some money. And you know, he says to me, thank you so much. And bless you. And as I walk away, he says to me, wait, I have something for you. I'm thinking, what could you possibly have for me? No, you really need this. Now remember, it's dark there. And he turns around, and no lie, it was a bag of onions. It was. And I just, you know, for that moment in life, you just stop yourself. And, you know, this is the song that came to my head when I got back in the car. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on a bike trying to make his way home. Learning his way home. Now, I'm going to read this from here because I guess, you know, I believe there are countless ways the universe is reaching out to you, helping you, guiding you on your course of life. We all have our own journey. All we have to do is pause and watch it happen to you. Be present because sometimes your greatest gift, the divine guidance, is all around you. I know we've been going through some crazy times, but whoever you interact with today, any day, whether it's a stranger, friends, family, take the moment to step back and see the absolute best, divine essence of them. And I don't care how you give today, always give, and give with your heart. I don't care who you give to, because it helps everyone, and it spreads love, and love needs to be spread. Thank you for listening. And by the way, my last connection for stuffing is today's my grandmother's birthday. That's the universe. Believe in it, love, give, I don't care. Give. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jean. There were some people I did not thank, and I skipped right over them, but some of our board members are here, and this is a volunteer board, and when I think back to last year, during COVID, everybody was struggling. Restaurants were struggling, nonprofits were struggling, we were trying to figure out a way how to keep this going after 21 years. So Mario's a board member. Judy Brewster over there, raise your hand. The czar, Steve Zarilli over there. And Pam DeHuff right in front. I don't have my glasses. and there are about 4 or 5 others who are not in attendance. It was really a volunteer effort to get here. So if you're out there, if you're in here and you want to volunteer, if you have anything to contribute, we will accept it. There are so many things that we need, from ticket takers to people who want to learn tech to people who want to be on stage. You are never too old to be on stage, ever. So please consider that. Next up, Sabrina Wilson, Inez and the Holiday Pies.
Hi. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Nice to see you all. So I wrote this all down and made an effort to memorize it, and then I decided that it would be much better if I just told the story. So that's what I'm going to do. So, the title is significant. Inez was my grandmother, who would be, I don't know, 100 and something today. She raised me pretty much. My mother was there, but went to work, and my mother raised me. My grandmother raised me. So, you know, if you grow up in a home with addiction, there's never any order. It's just always crazy and always unpredictable. That's just kind of the way it rolls. And if anybody's grown up in that kind of house, you may know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter what kind of substance it is. In our case, it was alcohol. And it just, I was an only child. And I used to say that I went between being under a microscope or being completely ignored. And I always thought that was a very hard thing to do, but so it was a crazy childhood. It was just always unpredictable. The lines in the sand always changed. You know, I always had clothes on my back, food in my belly, went to great schools. I had a lot of privileges, a lot of wonderful privileges. But behind closed doors in my house, it was crazy. It was just crazy. And when you're a kid in that kind of house, you're always looking for something to hold on to, like something the same. Like children thrive on order and you know, they thrive on order and they thrive on predictability. And there was none of that in my house. So it was a series of it's kind of like a train wreck, I guess. Like, you know, there were always changed dinner plans. We'd be ready to do something and something else changed. And nothing was ever the same from one day to the next. It always changed. So until you still pull out your handkerchiefs and start crying, I'll get to the good part. So it was crazy, but the good part was that we did have the holidays, and the holidays were good. Not because of the presents. I mean, of course, when you're a kid, you think, oh, I want presents, and I wasn't any different from any other kid. I wanted, you know, I'm going to tell my age now, but I don't know, Chatty Cathy, and remember those dolls with you pull the swing, and they cry, and they wet their pants. I never really understood it. It's like, I did have a baby. I did have a son. He's all grown up now, but that part I never understood. It's like, change the diaper? Why would you want to do that? I don't know. Of course, I was always waiting for the presents, and what I loved was, at that age when I was little, was looking for the presents. It was like I would make that my life purpose, to see where had my parents hidden the presents, and I did it every year. And there was always like only one place where she used to hide them, but I would look and look and look and look. And one year, usually it was in the closet, and my grandmother was the one that hid them. It was this deep closet, and usually it was my grandmother that hid them, and I would go looking and looking, and one year I found my present. It was terrible. It was terrible. I was devastated, and you know, I never looked again. I was probably like 6 or 7. I never looked for another present again, and to this day, I love surprises. People say, do you like surprises? Most people hate them, you know, but I love them. So Christmas, in spite of all the insanity, I love Christmas. And the reason that I love Christmas, the point of the story is that the reason that I love Christmas was because of my grandmother. and because we baked, you know, it was all about, and that was predictable. Like, I don't care what bullshit was going on in the rest of my house. Is she drunk? Is she sober? Did she fall down the stairs? Is she sleeping in the bathtub? I don't know. You know, I remember one holiday I had to go, my mother had gone away, and I had to go out into the driveway because my mother wanted to drink, and it was back in the 70s when there was snow, you know, snow piles like 6 or 7 feet high. And I had hidden the whiskey bottle in the snowbank. I was like 12 or 13. And she drank Old Crow. I can't stand the smell of whiskey. But anyway, I digress. So those were the terrible things about my grandmother. I love you. I've forgiven all those things. But the part about Christmas that was wonderful was the baking. And it was always predictable. We did the same thing every year. So I knew when we were getting started because she'd go get this old white man's shirt, like an old, you know, an oversized man's shirt, and she'd put on the white shirt, and she was pretty short like me, and she'd put it together, you know, make sure it was all buttoned up so she was covered. And then she had this sheet that she ripped from something, and she tied it around her head. You know, she had beautiful silver hair. And of course that was to make sure that nothing got in the food. And that's the way it started. And we made pies. We made pie dough and pumpkin pie and apple pie, mincemeat pie. Some of you may know mincemeat pie. Ugh. And fruitcake. Every year we made fruitcake, and we had this crock we put the fruitcake in. I can't stand fruitcake. I love my grandmother, but Mom said, "Oh, wouldn't you like my fruitcake today?" And I'm like, "No, please keep it away from me." But she taught me how to make pie dough. I can still see she had really bad arthritis in her hands, and I'm not gonna cry. I can still see her hands in the dough. She did this every year, which wasn't in the dough, it was the flour. So she'd start with the flour, she'd get the cold butter, she'd put that in the bowl. I don't know if any of your parents ever taught you how to make pie, but she put her fingers in there and she'd explain to me how, you know, it had to be crumbly and kind of like peas, and I would watch, and then she put the ice water in, only 2 tablespoons, don't you put too much because it'll make the dough tough, and then she put the salt in, and then miraculously, and this was before, of course, before Cuisinarts or KitchenAids or anything else, everything was done by hand, and then she'd pull it out of the bowl and roll it and make a tester. And I never heard of anybody who ever made a tester before. She'd roll a little piece of dough out and stick it in the oven, and that was to make sure that the dough was okay. And of course the dough was always okay. It was delicious and buttery and wonderful. So she made great pies. I just made a pumpkin pie, and she made a pumpkin pie like no one else. Pumpkin pie, a pumpkin chiffon pie. So it had gelatin in it, lots of spices, lots of orange peel, and it was amazing. And I made it for my son when he was small, and he said, "Mom, I don't like this. I want my other grandmother's pie." And I said, "What do you mean you want your other grandmother's pie?" And that woman could not cook. Sorry, but she couldn't. I have to get water. Oh my God. Sorry. So, where was I? So my grandmother's pies. So the pumpkin pie and all these amazing pies. And that was what was predictable. That's what we did every Christmas. I don't know. I don't remember the presents. I don't remember the tree. I don't remember the clothes I had on. I don't remember anything. But I remember those pies. I don't remember the time she got drunk. I don't remember going to the snowbank to get the bottle of Old Crow and take it into the house. I don't remember any of that. All I remember is the pies. And I've never told a story about her anywhere. I never told anybody that she drank. So this is like, I hope it helps somebody. She was an amazing person. And so the other piece of it that's wonderful is that my son seems to like to bake. And every time he comes home for a holiday, like before he came home for Thanksgiving, he calls me and he goes, "Mom, he's 27. He goes, "Mom, can we cook?" I said, "Yeah." Will you make a lemon tart?" That's a tart that he loves, a lemon tart. I said, "Of course, we'll make a lemon tart." So we make the lemon tart, and he stands there, towers over me, of course, and watches what I do. And so, you know, he and his life is very different than mine was as a child, but those pieces, like we bake together at Christmas, we make cookies, we make pies, we do all that stuff, and those are like, you know, those are the memories. I hope he has a lot of really good memories of the holidays, the way I did. And I know I wrote the end of this and I can't remember what else I said, but it's to her honor, because she was a wonderful person, and baking is what I do when I want to calm down. Baking is what I do when I'm sad. You know, it's one of those things that always reminds me of her and makes me happy. And it's Christmas. Like, I've already started. I'm rolling out cookies and doing all that stuff, and all the while I'm doing it, I'm thinking of her, and I'm remembering the dough and the pie and the cookie and all the conversations we had and all the old movies we watched together. We would always watch all those old movies. So this is for you, Nana. Inez, thank you for teaching me how to bake pies, and I know you're watching, so thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Just a note, if you're watching out there, please donate. We are really close to our goal, so help us get there. Next up is the author of a play that was accepted into our Playwright Festival, and it was one of 8 out of 95, so thank you for that. And he's here to tell yet another story. So, Bruce Pearl, Born Jewish.
Hit my marks. I was born Jewish, and no, that's not a secret, though it does have its pros and cons, at least as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's kind of cool to be part of a storied race, all biblical and shit, but you can't imagine how, as a kid, it sucks not to celebrate Christmas. That was my first clue what it really meant. Second was when I went to high school, Long Island, in the 60s. The kids, being mostly Irish and Italian, couldn't wait to try out what they learned in Catholic school, that I personally had killed Christ. Though I'm sure not one of those numbnuts knew Jesus had been Jewish. Fast forward 10 years, and I'm a mailman, going to St. John's at night and trolling for, well, chicks in my spare time. So I meet this cute little thing, last name Rogers. I'm so excited, she's definitely a shiksa. Then I find out her parents changed their name from Rodsprecher when I got here from Austria. What the? Anyway, it turned out that she, Miss Ann Rachel Rogers, missed Christmas as much as me. So the first thing we did after we got a place was a tree. Fast forward again, and I'm trying to explain to our kids as they're opening presents under the tree that, aside from there being no Santa Claus, they're actually Jewish. Judaism is a religion, my wife chimes in. And it's also an ethnicity I counter. So just because you became a Unitarian, which isn't a real religion anyway, doesn't change the fact that they were born Jewish, which all the Catholic kids knew from day one anyway. Fast forward again, and my kids are in middle school, and all their friends, being Catholic, want to know when they're getting bar mitzvah. But we're only ethnically Jewish, my kids chime in, right on cue. At this point, my wife gives up. Meanwhile, my sister had become a Jehovah's Witness, and my wife's sister, an Orthodox Jew, whose son, taking the biblical admonition literally, had 6 kids in 5 years. While my sister, concerned over the limited occupancy of heaven, opted for only 1. Who eventually got himself excommunicated by the elders of Zion for dating outside of the faith. Another shiksa, so to speak. But the real irony is that while both of them, my sister, my wife's sister, knew Jesus had been Jewish, as neither conceded he was God in the flesh, neither celebrated Christmas. Go figure. Be that as it may, and flashing forward again, my son Mike, who's now a cross between Valentino and McDreamy, marries Tammy Harris, who's half black, half Puerto Rican, and proud of it. But then for shits and giggles, she does that 23andMe, and it turns out she's only a quarter black, and yeah, a quarter Jewish. The mailman, it seems, another Chewbacca, made at least one special delivery to her grandmother. Who knew? We all said, Mazel Tov. She cried. Meanwhile, my son, Dan, who looks Israeli, marries red-haired, green-eyed, Kerry O'Neill, whose skin is so translucent she can't go out in the sun. In a church, the ceremony performed by a kilt-wearing priest named, I kid you not, Richard Burton. And they have this adorable little girl, Charlotte, who they're raising Catholic. I can't wait to tell her. She's only 4 now. As she's opening presents with my son, Nick, who we named after Santa Claus after we found him hiding under the tree. Yeah, she's actually Jewish, just like Jesus. We'll see if she cries. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Next person up, I kind of badgered into doing this, and I will say this, and just make it happen. So if you're looking to audition and you have a story, please check our website. Next person, as I said, he said, I don't have anything, and I'm saying, no, that can't be true. And lo and behold, after a couple of weeks of nudging him, here he is, Brian Dallas Field, with a kid with a heart and a cold Thanksgiving.
Hey everybody, welcome. Before we get started, I have my service dog here. He was actually the editor, so for the people on the YouTube at home, we'll get it here. Come on up, pause. There we go. Thank you very much. My piece is a little bit long, and it's because my editor is a dog. All right, so put you over here. All right, go ahead, lay down right here. All right, there we go. All right. Now, as you can see, to begin with, I do not have my piece memorized. And that is for 2 reasons, unlike my esteemed colleagues here. The first reason is I did a lot of hardcore drugs when I was younger, so my memory's a little... Oh, and the second reason. I'm lazy. Okay. All right, so again, my name is Brian Dallas. Oh, please do not make eye contact with Buck, because he's going to be doing that sad Labrador puppy face thing, and he wants you to look at him, and he's going to draw attention away from me, and we discussed this before. All right. So again, my name is Brian Dallas Field, and the actual title of the story is A Kid with Heart and a Cold Thanksgiving Meal. All right. So there's a place out on the edge of town, a rather special place. It's what you call a residential treatment center for children ages 5 to 17 with psychiatric and emotional disabilities. They live there, they receive specialized treatment, work with social workers, and they attend a special education school. Now, the reason they're there is not by choice. It's the last stop. The schools they were in couldn't handle them. Some have been removed by child services for horrendous reasons we will not go into. Some have bounced around from foster home to foster home with worsening behavior. And sort of the bottom line and the through line through all of this is most of these children have been let down by adults their entire life. But for the kids and myself, the real magic, the real therapy comes in the form of this beautiful farm this place has with over 250 animals, every type of animal you could imagine. And the animals are there to help the children. So we do what's called animal-assisted therapeutic activities, which is a fancy way for saying we use these special animals to help improve a troubled child's mood, self-esteem, self-confidence, and their ability to relate to their peers and the world around them. See, animals don't judge you. They don't care what you look like, what color you are, what happened to you in the past. They accept you exactly as you are. So this story takes place a couple years ago on a Thanksgiving. I fit into this story because I was the farm teacher at this place. Best job I ever had. Honestly, the only job I was ever really good at. Why? Because I loved and I was really good at working with kids with disabilities and animals. And I had this really great classroom. It was in this big red barn where most of the livestock lived, and it was surrounded by these beautiful pastures where the rest of the animals hung out. So most major holidays found me volunteering because I liked working at the farm on my own. I give the other staff the holiday off. They have families. I was single, Still am. Just putting it out there. And I like just being with the animals. And of course, the usual suspects. So, the usual suspects. Well, we had about 100 full-time residents in treatment at any one time. When major holidays rolled around, the majority of the residents had a rare chance, maybe twice a year, Christmas, Thanksgiving, to go wherever home was. Whether that was with a family, maybe a relative, a guardian, or a family friend. But left on campus was always a group of 15 kids, always the same kids year after year, with nowhere to go, no family to visit or relative to take them in. The usual suspects. An 11-year-old boy by the name of Lakeith Hart was a founding member of the usual suspects. So, a great kid, but with the same troubles as many, very down on himself, quick to fits of uncontrollable anger, times of hypermania, deep depression. And Lakeith was always very fond of me, and I knew he kind of looked up to me, even though he had trouble with most others' teachers. So around 1 p.m. this Thanksgiving, I went down to the dorm, knowing the kids would all be there, nothing really to do, bored out of their mind, playing donated, outdated video games. The usual suspects, all of whom I knew well, were there. All righty, I announced as I burst into the dorm. Who wants to come up to the farm, help clean stalls, and maybe take Elvis the potbelly pig out for a walk? Lakeith immediately jumped up. Nobody else. Maybe I shouldn't announce anything about cleaning stalls until we actually got up to the farm. But that's all right. I was happy just to have Lakeith. So on the walk up to the farm, Lakeith was bouncing all over the place, asking his usual rapid-fire questions. When we get to the farm, can I go into the stall with Marvin the black sheep and feed him a snack and take him for a walk around the barn? Then can I go in with the emu and do that thing you showed me where you rub her back and get her to lay down and put her neck over your shoulder? Oh, and the baby goats, Mr. Field, the baby goats! Lakeith, take a breath, look at me. I crouched down so he could see my face. How about we start with the baby goats, clean their stall, and then we go from there. Lakeith took a deep breath, flashed this giant megawatt smile he had, and said, okay. As we continued walking, Lakeith asked why I was working today when all the other staff was off. Did I get into trouble? Was I being punished? Something Lakeith knew all too well. No, I told him. I liked working on the holidays, quiet, just me and the animals, and maybe a few of my favorite students. And I gave him a little wink and which he thought was just stupid. So as we entered the barn, the 2-month-old baby Nigerian dwarf goats. So Nigerian dwarf goats, when they're adults, they're only like this big. So as babies, they're like itty bitty, absolutely adorable things. And we walk in, and they got their tiny black hooves and their tiny little noses against the gate, and they're doing that, except it's really, really high pitched. Like they were waiting for their friend Lakeith. Lakeith giggled, looked at me, I nodded, he ran over to their pen, flung open the gate, and immediately let the babies chase him all around. And they finally caught him, and he rolled around on the ground, laughing as they took turns jumping on him and over him and on him and over him over and over and over again. Pure joy from an 11-year-old boy. Finally, playtime was over. Lakeith grabbed the wheelbarrow, I grabbed the pitchforks, and just as we were about to start, Lakeith said, hold on, can I go get one of those cowboy hats from your classroom to wear while we work? Absolutely. I tossed him the keys to my classroom. Anytime you could give a kid who nobody trusts a chance for a little bit of responsibility, it was a good moment. I waited for what seemed like a couple of minutes. Then I got a little concerned. I entered the class and I see Lakeith holding and studying a picture from my desk. It was of my family, my 2 brothers, my mom, my dad, from about 2 years ago. Is this your family? He asked. Yeah, Lakeith, it is. I pointed out who was who, where everybody lived, and what kind of job they did. Usually not a good idea to disclose too much personal information to a kid, but, you know, when a child asks a sincere question, I'd like to give him an honest answer. So, back to work we went. But Lakeith was now just barely going through the motions, distracted. Then he put his pitchfork down and he started for the pen's gate. Lakeith, where are you going? I thought you were going to help me. Lakeith stood there for a second with his back to me. Then he slowly turned around, his eyes watery. Mr. Field, he began, would you adopt me? I was completely caught off guard. Tears began to stream down his face. He repeated the question, Mr. Field, would you adopt me? I promised I'd be really good and I'd help you all the time. Really, I would. I'd be really good, better than anybody. I looked at Lakeith and I literally felt helpless in that moment to answer. In my head, I'm thinking, I could barely take care of myself and my dog and do my dishes. Doing laundry is like a 3-day ordeal. I took a deep breath. Lakeith, let's take a little walk. I gave him the red bandana from my back pocket to wipe his eyes. You know, if you blow your nose in this, you get to keep it. He pretended to blow his nose in it. Congratulations, you now own a bandana covered in snot and tears. We both smiled, and he took the bandana and put it in his back pocket the same way I do. We walked in silence for a little bit, and then I said, hey, let's go sit on the fence where the cows are. I loved our cows. I loved watching them in the pasture, slowly moving around, grazing on grass, hearing those big bells around their neck ringing. I always found it very relaxing. We both took our places sitting on the corner of the fence, looking up this big hill with the cows. Lakeith, you asked me a very real and serious question that I know means a lot to you. So I'm going to give you a very honest answer. He looked at me intensely. You're a wonderful young man. And I've been really impressed with how far you've come in your behavior and with your schoolwork. But I can't adopt you. I'm not at a place in my life where I could properly take care of a young man and provide him with everything that he'll need to become an adult. But what I can do is be the best teacher to you that I possibly can be, and hopefully have a very positive impact on you and help you along the way the best that I can. Lakeith stared up at the mama cow and her baby calf. The same baby calf he actually saw being born just a few weeks earlier. He took the bandana out and wiped his face, and he whispered, so the answer is no. Yes, I replied, as sincerely as I could. After a few moments, Lakeith said, okay, I think I understand. And I thought to myself, I did the best I could. Now it was getting late, and it was about time for the attempted Thanksgiving dinner that they tried to put on in the dining hall. So, Mr. Hart, you ready to have out some turkey and stuffing and all the trimmings? And Lakeith responded with a resounding, fuck no. Okay, I said, you want to try answering that again? Sorry, I mean no, Mr. Field. I really can't stand their Thanksgiving food, and there's nothing else for me to choose from today. You sure, Lakeith? I mean, it ain't great, but heck, you could just eat pumpkin pie for all I care, up to you. Lakeith looked up at the hill and the mother cow and the calf was nursing from her, and he said to me, Mr. Field, I've been here for like 3 years now. I've eaten every meal in that stupid dining place. I'm sick of it. All the other kids get to go home and have real food. Can I skip it, please, at least for today? Don't you have any real food up here? And I said, well, of course we do. We got bacon, and we got lamb chops, and we got steak, and we got chicken nuggets, but they're all still sort of moving around. Lakeith just looked at me completely blank, not getting my stupid joke. Well, I said, we have leftover pizza from yesterday in the staff fridge. I love pizza, Lakeith screams, terrifying the cows on the hill, making them scatter. Okay, Thanksgiving pizza it is. I grabbed all the foil-wrapped pizza from the fridge, paper towels, a bottle of water for me, and I stole someone's can of Coke for Lakeith. Gotta have soda with pizza. And we sat out at a picnic table next to the pig stall. Lakeith was devouring the pizza before I even got settled. Through mouthfuls, he said, Mr. Field, this is the best pizza ever. I was kind of worried he might choke. But he seemed so happy away from the dining hall, the other kids having real pizza. And let's face it, I was pretty good at the Heimlich maneuver. You get a lot of practice around kids. After 3 giant slices, a can of Coke, a gigantic burp, and 2 slices we threw to the pigs, just to be fair, Lakeith seemed content. He was smiling. Lakeith, I can't promise you that you'll ever be adopted. I really, really hope that happens. But you know what I can promise you? One day, you're gonna make the best father in the world. Because all that you've been through, you'll know exactly what a little boy or a little girl needs. Thanks, Mr. Field, Lakeith said, flashing that big megawatt smile. Thank you, Lakeith. I thought I'd be alone on Thanksgiving. And it turns out that cold, leftover pepperoni pizza can be a lot better than turkey and stuffing, especially if you're eating it with just the right person. Thank y'all so much. Thank you for coming out and supporting us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Tremendous. I am the last performer of the night. Nobody, thank you. Nobody is kicking you out. Stay.
Come on, Johnnie,
The parade is excellent. Stay here, eat, drink, have fun, talk amongst each other. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank Iron and Wine for hosting us tonight. We did great. Still donate if you can, and if you can't tonight, but in the future this month, please do. Every single dollar helps. And the title of my piece is Wrapping Paper. Wrapping paper has literally been the death of me. I have been threatened with death, yelled at, screamed at, cursed at to no end, all because of my inability to properly wrap a box or wait until Christmas to open up my presents. Now, my woes with wrapping paper go back to when I was a kid. And like most people's houses, Santa Claus leaves your gift on Christmas Eve. In my house, the tree went up a few days after Thanksgiving, and a few days after that, gifts from Mom and Dad would appear under the tree, beautifully wrapped, bows and tags. So, me and my 3 brothers, 4 boys between 6 and 10, weeks before the big event, every day would have to look at these beautiful gifts for us, and we're expected not to open it up. This was an invitation to trouble, and they never changed it. So, our 007 mission was to figure out what was inside the box. If we could figure that out, we had weeks before Christmas. We could then make Mom and Dad feel guilty about the things that they didn't get were on our list. If we got the G.I. Joe and we needed the tank, we could start screaming and yelling. And so the mission begins. 4 young boys scheming and plotting. And with every scheme, you need a plan. And here is how the plan went. First, you gotta have a diagram. So let me give you the diagram. My house was a very modest house growing up. It was a railroad house, straight on through, kitchen, dining room, living room, parlor. In the parlor, in front of the big window, was the Christmas tree, and next to the tree was the front door. You will appreciate all of my hand motions in just a moment. Off the kitchen, upstairs were a couple of bedrooms where we all were. So, here's the plan that 4 genius 6 to 10-year-olds come up with. 3 of us are gonna go into the kitchen, storm Mom, harass her, keep her busy, while one goes from the stairs without Mom hearing, straight across the house, gets under the tree, and starts tearing things out. Let the plan begin. My three brothers go down. They enter the kitchen. One guy immediately starts pulling out all the pots from the cabinet. The other guy starts screaming and causing a fight. This guy is start banging doors, and then the screaming starts, and that's my cue to take off from the steps. I am in my feety pajamas, ready to kill, and there I go. I jump off, it's hardwood floors, I start sliding across the floor. As soon as I hit the floor, my feety pajamas go down to my ankles. I hit the living room, my little animal underwear starts falling down my ass, and I make it under the tree with my ass hanging out, and I am ready to do business. I'm in there, I'm surrounded by presents. All I can see is toys. So now I have the really hard part. Which one is mine? There's lights blinking, there's things happening. I really can't read, for God's sake, it's dark. So now I take my fingers, I find one, can I flip it over? I start to bang it. Please don't let it be fucking clothes. I hate fucking clothes. I know I'm 9, but I had the worst potty mouth ever. Please, so I immediately put my fingers in the slit, not the slit everybody has in their mind right now. The little piece of arrow on the wrapping paper that tapes down to the bottom. I put my fingers in the slit, pick it up. All of a sudden, front door opens, and on little Bobby's ass is a size 12 work boot. Dad came home early. I look up at him, he looks down at me. What do you think you're doing down there, you little bastard? Little bastard? Well then, who the hell are you? He grabs me by the legs, flings me across the thing. I hit the table, bounce off. My brothers hear the mayhem. They're out of the kitchen. Everybody runs upstairs. Boom, boom. That's it. Mission not accomplished. We were so close. I had my fingers right there, ready to read the label. We got to try it again. All we have to do is change one thing. Let's start 15 minutes earlier. That way Dad won't be home yet. Genius. Absolute genius. Here we go. We go downstairs, my three brothers, into the kitchen, banging out the pots, doors are slamming, yelling. I still got my same pajamas on, jump off, everything the same happens. My pants are down, my underwear's down, I'm ass under the tree, I made it again. None of that plan has changed, and I'm ready to open up that gift, and on my ass is another foot. It's my mother. Apparently she had grown wise to this plan somehow. I grew up in the 70s with an Italian mother. And a 70s Italian mother, her best weapon is the wooden spoon. She's got her foot firmly on my bare ass. And I can tell there's trouble coming in here. And we knew she knew how to use that thing. As a matter of fact, the running joke in our house, when we went to the kitchen, as she's stirring the pot, whose ass is in the pot, Mom? Bill's? I think I'll have the canned soup tonight. Back to the tree. Looks down at me. The Italian samurai waving her sword. What are you doing down there, you little son of a bitch? Son of a... But doesn't that make you the big... Bam! It goes, tree goes up all over. My mother screams, grab it. That's my entrance. I'm running across the street with my pajama feeties on. My brothers hear it out. They're running out of the kitchen, and she says, whoa, you three, stop right there. And she's waving her magic sword at them. And it's quiet, so I know they're petrified right now. And she says, I want to know, which one of you bastards? The front door opens, my father comes in, my brother Jimmy says, then who the hell is he? They all run up, we're in the bedrooms, end of story. never accomplished a single thing. But that was just the beginning of my woes. About 20 years ago, I opened up an e-commerce gift shop. It was really a bad idea for a guy who doesn't know how to wrap a box. So, we sold some of the most expensive dinnerware on the planet. $100 gift plates, $1,000 bowls, $500 trays. Every one more beautiful than the next. And the number one complaint was, your wrapping sucks. It didn't matter what was inside the box. Some of the most beautiful presents on the planet. December 26th, the calls came in. Hello? Yeah. I just bought a $350 ladle, and I want to return it. Want to return it? Did it work right? Did it scoop out the gravy? Oh, it worked perfectly fine. It was beautiful, but the wrapping job on it was awful. Like, well, miss, you really can't return the ladle because you hated the wrapping paper. Don't you tell me the small fine print, you little son of a bitch. Mom! Mom! You bought the ladle? Why? Why are you doing this to me? Well, you just can't send gifts out like that. Didn't matter what was inside that box. Couldn't get it right. They didn't like the bow. They didn't like the color of the bow. They didn't like the color of the paper. They didn't like that one slit was down and one slit was up. Figure that problem out in life. They didn't like anything about the wrapping paper. So sometimes we would have the store and we would get things that were a little bit irregular. And we'd sell them for $1, $5, things like that, just so they could go. And people would come in and they'd say, yeah, I'd like this little dollar thing wrapped. And I would say, no way, not for $1. And they'd say, here's the wrapping paper, here's the tape, you can wrap it. Oh no, I don't want that responsibility. So I start to think to myself, maybe the wrapping paper is just a symbol for something else. Maybe it represents something. Now, as I said, I grew up in an Italian family, and at holiday time, it was a house full of people, 30, 40 people, living room, dining room, all in front. Half of them spoke Italian, half of them spoke English. Nobody ever listened to each other. They were all screaming and yelling at each other. Half of them smoked, so you couldn't really see anything that was going on. But it was great. My mother and my grandmother cooked so much food, and everybody knows the Feast of Seven Fishes. When we were growing up, it was the Feast of 32 fishes. 25 of them are now extinct. We had so much food. But it was great. It was outstanding. So I get a call from one of my oldest friends, Poe. Never knew Poe's name. All we did call him when we were growing up, Poe. Hey, where are we going? Poe's house. Where's coming home? Poe. Poe calls me up. He says, hey, Bob, what are you doing on New Year's Eve? Nothing, Poe. What's going on? He says, I'm having a Happy Jew Year party. Happy Jew Year? What is Happy Jew Year? He says, yeah, my family's Jewish. We celebrate together. We call it Happy Jew Year. I want you to come over. I'm like, oh, I know you my whole life. When did this Jewish thing happen? He's like, when I was born. You just never asked. He says, it's Paulie Moskowitz. Paulie Moskowitz? Man, my whole life. I don't know your last name. It's sick. It's crazy. All right. I don't know too much about this Jewish food, Poe. I mean, what am I going to eat? He says, don't worry, my wife orders from an Italian deli. She'll take care of you. Great. I go by. So, a few hours before I go to Poe's party, I get on the Ancestry. And like my friend Bruce there, I find out that I'm half Jewish. This rocks my world. My father's father was Jewish. He's passed a few years ago, but I call up my mother. I say, hey, Mom, did you know that Dad was Jewish? She says, of course I knew he was Jewish. I said, well, why didn't you tell anybody? He said, we couldn't tell anybody. My father wasn't going to let me marry someone who wasn't Italian. It was 1954. Everybody hated everybody back then. I said, but he died a few years ago. Why didn't you tell me then? And she says, don't get fresh with me, you little bastard. And I said, now the bastard makes sense. So I said, you know what? I'm going to a Happy Jew Year party. Think about that one. And so I continue on my ancestry journey, and I find out again on my father's mother goes way back to the Pilgrims. And I do a lot of reading about the chicanery that went on between the Native Americans and the Pilgrims, and how a lot of them were swindled out of land. And you hear all these kinds of stories now about how our founding fathers really kind of wrote them out by just having them read a contract which you couldn't understand and put an X on the line, and all of a sudden, there you go. It's now the new city of whatever they want to call it. And as I do the research, I find my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather is signing on the dotted line with the X of a Native American and has the second colony in Massachusetts. And I'm like, wow, I'm Jewish, I'm a Native American swindler. Maybe I should have kept this wrapping paper on and just been happy with myself. This is a lot to take in one night before going to Happy Jew Year. So I start to take stock of myself. And maybe I would have been different if I knew these things. Maybe I wouldn't have, who knows. But I start to really think about this wrapping paper thing. And we all have so many labels that are going around. And I think of that as just wrapping paper. We are all trying to hide what's on the inside. So for this year, for next year, let's all decide, pull that wrapping paper off. Let out the goodness that's inside of you, accept what happened, let's move forward, let's be happy with who we are, and let's recognize that that thin sheet of paper is there to do nothing but to deceive and really keep the goodness that has to come out. I want to thank every single one of you for coming tonight. If I can get the cast just to come up and take a bow. I want to thank everybody out there, everybody who donated. You made this a terrific night. So here it is. Come on into camera. And we will take our bow. Thank you all. Please stay. Enjoy your dinner. Have a great time out there. Please consider donating. And we will see you at the next Brewster Theater show.